everyone. Welcome to FMTrain.tv. So let's talk about what we have going and where we are at the moment. So if I go to FMTrain.tv, you can see the upcoming broadcast schedule. And Calvin's here to help us a little bit. There's some requests and questions that came in about FM Starting Point. We're going to dive into that. Let me cover the schedule real quick. Tomorrow, Christian Olson is going to be hacking a module or something in FM Starting Point. Then Christian Schmidt will be here on Friday doing PDF management. And then Calvin will be back Monday, so you're going to get a double of Calvin. If you hate Calvin's guts, then unfortunately you're going to be totally sick of him by Monday. So he'll be back on Monday doing a great job like he always does great work. So FM Starting Point, we had the update, and then we had a couple people have a couple interesting conversations. So one was, if I go to FM Starting Point, you can download the current versions. I had a couple interesting emails. Scott Kane had a question about how to do a couple things in terms of, I consider them kind of basic, but it's something that it's so basic that I thought about it. I'm like, I think I could do it, but I'd be nervous about doing it on live TV cold. And so I had to call Calvin up to Calvin, your boss doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Come help. And so Calvin's here. So you know Calvin, he's been to DEF CON. He goes to pause on air, pause on air, right? So that'll be coming up in October. And so the other thing that came up was someone said, hey, Richard, you've got a bug on FM Starting Point. I need to educate you folks on the difference between a bug and a feature that doesn't exist that you want me to build for you for free, okay? Those are two different things, okay? So if someone says there's a bug, that means that we're attempting to do something and it doesn't do it correctly. A feature request is when it doesn't even attempt to do it at all, right? Or maybe it should do it, but it doesn't attempt to do it all. That's not a bug. That's an oversight or a lacking of a feature or whatever. So what I wanted to do was show you the issue that popped up with me, and then we're going to bring Calvin in here. I'm going to kind of bring myself down here in the corner. And by the way, all these copies of Starting Point are available right now. We will probably be doing an update probably in a week or so with this one request that you're about to see. So here was the request. And it's one of those things that you don't really notice it until someone points it out and you don't even understand it. And then you go, oh, damn, you missed something. So you go to contacts and say that you're putting in a new contact. So you have a new contact record and we're going to call it Calvin. Calvin, do you have a dog? What's your dog? Do you have a dog or cat?
I have a tiger. His name's Hobbs.
Okay. Okay. So it's Hobbs, the tiger. Okay. All right, so that's Hobbs' name. Now, Hobbs has to work at a company, right? So in contacts, if you see assigned company, in the old days, you just click and type in the company name. But here you're going to say, well, show me the list of the companies that are in the system. And in this sample, this is like a sample data you get with downloading Starting Point. There's only one company because you haven't put the data in yet. And so I think it was Steve goes, hey, it's broke. And so I'm looking around for this breakage because if you try to assign it, it doesn't assign or something. He didn't really write the first email well. So I checked I checked 9 different master files of copies of our database. Nothing's broke. He goes, well, what if you want to add a person or add a company? And I'm like, oh, damn. He goes, yeah, you have to cancel and then unwind out and then go over to here and do this. And I'm like, oh, now I get the problem. And so that's not a bug, that's an oversight or a missing feature. All those are acceptable answers. You can check off any of those answers. Those are all fine. I'm sure once upon a time it was in there, but remember we went through this design surface rebuild, right? Nick Hunter, the neomorphism stuff. And my team was like trying to follow Nick's in his footsteps. Following in Nick's footsteps, as some of you know, is difficult. And when we were doing bug testing stuff, we were looking for features that were in the product that didn't work, not that was missing, right? I will tell you when I make a mistake. I admit when I'm wrong. I apologize to Calvin. Calvin, I'm very sorry. I was wrong, okay? All right? It's important skill set to be able to apologize and say you're wrong and you will fix it. Okay, so what I did is I personally this morning, in the midst of all the other mayhem and shenanigans in my life, and I posted what will become probably an X2 version of FM Starting Point Lite. I'm building it in Lite. It will get cleaned up and replicated and put into all these other files. It's a minor feature improvement, but kind of a good one. And I built it myself partly as an exercise to make sure that I still know how to use FileMaker, right? Because we eat our what? Own dog food, yes. I'm going to try to open it up. I'm going to put my super secret password in here that no one is allowed to know. It works. Okay, so I'm in. And so this server is on Amazon. It is up in their data center here on the West Coast, and it's doing whatever it was just doing just now. I think it probably finished backups. So here we are. So this is the standard version of Starting Point. So what I did is I took, so this is kind of under the hood of how you do lightweight basic things. So what I did is I established the fact that, so let's start a new record. I'm going to call a new record. I'm going to call it Scott Kane. Now, Scott Kane, your request stuff is coming up when Calvin talks in a little bit. So I clicked the assign. So this is part of what's already in there. What I did is I said, there's a card style window. It's got kind of this nicky kind of design to it. And I added a button up here that says add account or company, account/company. And what I did is I duplicated this layout. I made another layout that we'll jump to, and it's not perfectly styled yet, but it allows you to input the company information. That way you can do it kind of in flight. Once you're done, it finishes connecting the two items together. So we look here, we see that we don't want to work Scott Kane doesn't work at Doggy Style Incorporated, doesn't work for RCC, he doesn't work at Stew Style either. So what we're going to say is add new account. So the script that I wrote very simply says close window. This is a card style window, so closing the window doesn't close this one, it closes this one. Close window, pop a new window on, pop a new window as a card style, right? So you're going to see that happen, and I can step through this. So you see that flash, that's okay, okay? Then you would fill out the same basic information here. So account name is going to be Lynn's Palace of Pleasures, okay? There you go. So there we go. It's a pretty awesome business, a type of business. It's going to be a firm, professional firm. Thank you very much. And then, and I haven't finished with the rest of this here. You'll see in a moment what I'm doing. You just say create account company, or you can cancel. If it cancels, it just closes this out and you go back to where you were. Otherwise, you say create, and what it's going to do, it's going to dismiss this window. It's going to invisibly, and it might flash on this, but what I do is I pop a maintenance layout that's accounts, and I set some data in there. Then I close it, and then I finish connecting the relationship. So when you're done here, we should be back over here on Scott Kane, and it should show that Scott works at Lynn's Palace of Pleasures. I'm going to say create record, and if it works, there it is. It did what it's supposed to do. So let's walk through this with the debug real quick for those of you to see what I did. You'll see the logic of this, and you'll see how I kind of recycled some other stuff in FileMaker, because it's not perfectly presented, but it's solid. And one of the underlying strategies is that when you get, so like you're on here, and you click on that, now it jumped to Lynn's Palace of Pleasures over here. That name is just so, it's kind of weird. Anyway, so the idea is I took this section in here, and I turned this into its own card. However, because I want this to be transactional, I didn't use the transaction system, because the new transactions in 19.6 are designed for scripting. They're not really designed for end users to use the transactions. So what we did is I created global fields. So I went through and I started creating the global fields. And I created the global fields up here, not down here. And as you set them in here, you're setting globals. And at the bottom it said, create the new account or cancel. If you cancel, you can clear the globals or do whatever you want to do, but on the create, it closes the window, and since they're in globals, I go to accounts, I say create new record, and then just do the set field, set, done, right? It's really simple stuff, and so Steve had this thought that this was a bug or whatever. I did this as an opportunity to, one, sharpen my skills, but to walk you through how this works real quick. So I'm assuming we want to see this real quick. So we'll go back to contacts. So there's Scott. We're going to create a new person here. We need our next victim, who's a sassy person. Where's Larry or David? David Angel's not here. That's too bad. David Angel. So we got David Angel, and we're going to turn on the script debugger. We're going to watch how this goes. So what happens first is that we're going to use the built-in capabilities already there. I'm going to click on it right here. I'm going to say, click on this. It's going to say, run the script. And it's going to say, well, we don't check to make sure some triggers are off. This is some internal housekeeping. If there is a popover here, it's going to forcibly close the popover. Next, it's going to set the search result item right here. And then this, I added this right here so we could keep track of the ID contact that's in play, if that makes sense. So I set that into a global variable. Then we clear the search field that you're about to see pop up here. And then I'm going to pop a new window in a card style. And then what happens, there's some error checking here. And I think this message says there will be an error 3 if the pop-up window is displayed as a card. I think that should say is not displayed as a card, Calvin. Wouldn't you think? Not displayed, because it works, and you're not going to get an error 3 right now. So I think
so the error 3 means that it's not able to open a new window.
Yeah.
So if you're
what if you're using an old version of FileMaker, right? Old version of FileMaker, and they ran this. I think that's in there for backwards compatibility, right? If you're using like 17 or 18.
Right. If you're using, if you're using 15.
Cards, whenever cards
16.
18, 19.
The new window and being able to specify the layout started in 16.
Okay.
So that's taking into account if you open it in 15, then it'll open it.
I don't think cards go back that far. So
cards go back, I think, to 17.
Okay, well, we built this so it would be backwards compatible. So if it can't spawn this, then what it does is it figures out that you spawned a new window instead. So this list of accounts is a whole window over here, not this really nice, pretty card for all of you who refuse to update your copies of FileMaker. And I have people who do that, right? So then we do some things to make the window look less gnarly, right? We set the size, we set the dimensions, we do things like that. And so we end up stepping down through here. But since we're not going to have this error, it's going to skip it because the card did spawn. As you can see behind here, the card did spawn correctly. And then we do this little resize removement thing. It's there for some reason. Obviously, we ran into an issue. You'll watch the site over here get a little bit wider when I do that. So it gets a little bit wider. So that's to support something in there that would be unsavory otherwise. So then we come down here. The script ends right here. These are leftover bits of code in here. Remember yesterday we were talking about base elements and doing analysis, and base elements was giving a list of unreferenced scripts. Well, this, I don't know if this is a recent thing that my team did or not, because they didn't really date this note here, but they said, hey, these items down below here, we put these in here so this script would show up as being referenced. It wouldn't come up as an unreferenced script when it really clearly we're using it, if that makes sense. And so they put these commands in here to fake out base elements so it doesn't throw an error. If that makes any sense, right? So that's kind of the idea. So we're basically at this point, we're done, okay? We are going to do a sort records here because I have a sub-summary over here. Now, it's interesting. It says go to field right here, up here. I think that's an error in the script, and you can see right there the field is missing, yet the field appears to be there. So I think that might be a bug that doesn't affect the outcome of the script. It's kind of like one of those, like you're saying that the sausage making under the hood, and you see this. Calvin, you have any thought on that? I think
so what I'm guessing is happening, that's a global field, and so it doesn't need to look through that relationship to show it. So they probably just put the field on the layout referencing T14 preferences.
Yeah, would be my guess. So anyway, so they try to go to a field. The field's not there, but the field is kind of right here. But here's the thing. When you do a sort, you're going to disrupt it anyway. You'd want to do this command. Then the last thing you do would be go to the field, right, Calvin? The last thing, because that's
right. Yep.
Because you're telling the computer, I've been trying to train my new juniors on this. I said, when you're talking in a script to FileMaker, pretend like you're trying to give a 10-year-old instructions. I want you to go outside. Okay, go outside. That's go to layout. Go outside. Go to mower, grab mower, get mower, copy the mower, move the mower to the front, paste the mower, go start mower, choke in, out. Very specific commands. That's how you tell FileMaker to do stuff. I have Taylor, who I've been training her on how to do this stuff, and she's getting quite good at it, right? But she didn't understand this concept, and she has like this 12-year-old. I said, pretend like you're telling your 12-year-old to mow the lawn, right? So do this, then do this, then do that. It's very linear. It's a linear set of instructions, and that's all you have to remember. And then remember that you have a really high-speed kind of idiot level robot that's doing this. It's going to do a sort, which is useful because we get this sub summary over here. So now we have like all the D's together, the L's together, the R's. It's really easy to kind of find the company. It's going to go to record, first one at the top. If that was a big list, this would matter. You start at the A's at the top. then the script's going to exit. So we are done. So all that was the stuff that exists in the product shipping as of right now if you go download it. This stuff right here is the stuff I built this morning in this copy, which we're happy to put out there, but it's not like rocket science. I understand you folks wanting it so you don't have to do it yourselves, but I'm going to probably have this replicated into all the versions because it's common sense. So you say add new company. So if we look at the script step that I wrote, I'm going to run a different script. I'm going to close the window. I made a note right here. This can only be run from where you have a card style window, okay? If you run a close window command and it's the only window open, you close the whole solution, right? So you got to be careful where you fire this from. It's very specific to this scenario, right? That makes sense? I mean, if you tell your kid to mow the lawn and he's in the bathroom and the command is start mower and you're in the wrong context, bad things are going to happen. I can't even imagine trying to start a lawnmower in the bathroom. There we go. So close window. Whoop. Now we're going to pop a new window. And I actually copied the code from the other script because it's some sort of sensitivity to, older versions of FileMaker, right? So step down. It's not going to get the error. So pop that little window right there. Now it really needs to have a shadow in there around the edge there a little bit. It's kind of hard because there's the bottom right there. So somehow it's overspawned lengthwise, but there's my create cancel button. And so I'm going to step, it's going to step, step, step. Now we're done. We're in a holding pattern. Now what I should do is clear the globals. These are global fields up here. I haven't finished building all the global fields, but one of the things you should do is clear the global fields because it's remembering the last company we created. So I'm just going to change this to, let's see, who haven't we picked on? Labo. Labos. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. Oh. That's the different. Don't worry about that. Labos. Okay. Oh, okay.
So we need to either disable the triggers or close the script debugger.
Yeah, I'm going to close the script debugger for now. Because what it's doing is searching to see if I hit the escape key. Because one of those little oversights, if you hit the escape key, it should kind of close this window. In fact, if you do that on Go, right, you have a card style on Go and you click around the outside, it's kind of like the escape. It ejects automatically, Calvin, right? So what we're doing is we're doing an on layout script trigger, not an object script trigger, but on the layout. So if you type any button while on this layout, it's going to check to see if you
on layout keystroke.
On layout keystroke.
Keystroke.
That's applied at the layout, layout level. On it's not on object, on layout keystroke. Yep, I said that probably wrong. Okay, Labos, doggy domain. It's going to be an organization. These should be globals down here. They should be blank. You would fill these out, fill this out, set these up, and then you can cancel. If you cancel, it doesn't create the new record. So these are all globals. The record's not created yet. This is just basic FileMaker stuff. You say create, 1, 2, 3. It's going to create that. It goes to it creates a new record. It basically does a bunch of set fields from the globals. Then it grabs the ID account and brings it back and drops it in here invisibly. You can't see it, but now it's connected to Labo's doggy domain and the ID account is in there. Okay, so that was a oversight, not a bug. Okay, yes? Stu's got a question. Instead of globals and counts, did you consider setting the note count to save? I don't use that non-record save automatically thing. That's because I don't, I'm kind of an absolutist, Stu. If you can get it to work reliably, that's great. When I started using FileMaker, that didn't exist. And so some of my thought processes are FileMaker's kind of like absolute, like Christian Olson, you'll see him tomorrow, will go into layout mode and make a bunch of edits. And when he goes back to browse mode, it says, hey, are you really sure you want to save those changes? And he's like, oh, I always like that option in there so I can decide to revert it. Well, it's not like you're screwed because Command Z is available. If you go back to layout mode, you can undo your changes. And that is also a newer feature in the product. It didn't exist when I learned. So we had to learn that it was all or nothing. And so every time I thought something throws a dialogue in my way, it slows me down. It drives me insane. So I guess you could do the not save records automatically and then create a new record and cancel and delete and then Yeah, I thought about creating a record then deleting it, Stu, but that's really old school and that's prone to. You have some people who get real excited if they have gaps in their serial numbers. If your primary, see, like up here, primary key, like if I got 005 and I do another one at 06 and 07, some people get real excited if they have a missing gap in there. In fact, sometimes for legal purposes, it can be a problem with some organizations. Um, like you were doing the stuff that you did before in your previous life. And if you had inventory on certain personal items that went bang, and you had to know who those were assigned to and serial numbers and stuff like that, they don't want missing pages out of an inventory book, right? A whole page is just ripped out and gone. Some inventory management books have serial numbers printed. Like imagine a binder. You guys buy a binder like this, right? But imagine this binder. It's got pre-printed serial numbers on the top of each page. So they went through and pre-printed each page, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if they're going through and doing an audit and you're missing a page, well, what was on that page? Was it, your favorite M249 or what's missing on there, right? And so, and where did it go? And did you send it home to your family because they would love their own saw, right? So the question becomes, you don't want that happening sometimes. And so if you create the record and then they unwind it and delete it, you've created, deleted it, and you've created a gap in your serial. Now, if you're using UUIDs as your primary keys, then no one would ever know, right? Because it's a 32-bit random scrambled thing and no one would ever know. There's no really serialization in there. So it's not that you can't do it. It's just do it. Listen, like in everything in FileMaker, is generally more than one way to do it. Now, in terms of like using a crash file from a server that's crashed and not using a backup, there's one way to hell, and then there's one correct way. So in that case, there is no negotiation. However, in most situations, FileMaker. Go ahead, Calvin.
Yeah, if I can chime in on Stu's question, there's also a third way you might be able to do that.
You want to show
that
on your
I've
screen?
done.
Show it, or?
I don't have a demo of it, but if you can prevent a card window from committing a record, and so when you say cancel, you can just revert the record. I don't generally like having buttons that just delete things, but if you say revert, then the record disappears if it was never committed.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's why I do the transaction so that it's completely transparent. But Stu, it's all, you can pick the way you want to go. It's totally good. Just think about all the little bits and pieces to that.
Interesting idea to revert. I'll need to play with that from Stu.
So the plan is that we're going to, I'm going to give this to one of my junior staff and they're going to go through and glue this in. The other thing I noticed is that in the script workspace, that a lot of the script numbers were kind of like, okay. And then you got down in here to accounts and it went to 500 and then 600. And then you went in here and it went back to 5. So there's some triggers for, I'm not clear on quite how and why all that happened the way it is, but we're going to do a little bit resequencing, at least for me, because I do a lot of demos for you folks in Light and I need to make sure it's coherent and not stupid. Right, Calvin?
Right.
All right, so here comes Calvin. You ready, Calvin? It's your big Hollywood break, right? Yeah?
I am ready. Yep.
So Stu goes, hey, Rich, it'd be really great if you kind of reminded us and covered again how to have an invoice or a document in FileMaker. Just say an invoice because that's an easy one. A document in FileMaker, a layout that we would normally print to paper. We want to output it to PDF, but after we output it to PDF, I don't want to use the menus at the top. I want it scripted. Right? In fact, do you still have that screenshot I sent you of his request? Let's just throw that up there. Oh, Zoom. Can you hit Command Plus? Will that get any bigger? No? Maybe. No. Oh, there we go. So this is what Stu said. Hey, it'd be really great, right? To not have the menu thing at the top and be able to do save as a PDF. I would say save where, so I'm just going to assume save to the desktop because it's always easy to find things on the desktop. Save PDF to a container, which some people absolutely need, although Calvin already thinks it's a waste of time, but I told Calvin to do it anyway. And then save the PDF and attach to an email. So we're just going to discuss these three as they are today. Yes?
So here's my copy of FM Starting Point. I just downloaded this today. and I'm going to jump over to invoices, and I have some demos for these features that we just talked about with the PDFs.
So,
And these are all accomplished.
yeah,
What's
let's
that?
just establish up front real quick. I know you're doing a great job. There's no problem here, but they're all going to ask this question. So this menu right there pre-exists in your downloaded copy, okay? This menu right here is new that Calvin is put in here today for demo. We're going to combine these together and make sure they're in a future release of this product. Yes, everyone? So we're all good on that? You don't get it today because we don't have the time today to do it, and no one's paying us to do this. We're doing it out of the wonderful goodness of our heart. Right, Calvin?
That's right.
Calvin's getting paid. He's supposed to bill me for this time, but yes. Anyway, so what did you do, Calvin?
So our first option here is save to desktop. Clicking this, you can see this automatically saved to the desktop and opened. You'll see it right here. And there's a nice invoice. The second option is email. So if I select this, it again creates the invoice and saves it to the desktop, but then additionally creates an email in my default email app and attaches the PDF to there. And since it's one page, we can see that one page. And I'm going to say don't save. And our final option is to save in a container. And so this time you'll see that it created the PDF and then saved, it inserted that file into this container field in this popover. But we could point that to a different container field if we wanted to. So how is this done?
I have a question.
What?
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Without using the Monkey Bread plugin, because I don't think we need it, even though Christian Schmidt would say tell us all to buy it immediately. Your thumbnail is not very thumbnaily. So I'm wondering.
Yes.
I'm wondering must be how you inserted it in there, I think is what that happened with.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
that's when you get to bring that up because that
right.
I like the thumbnails to be kind of representative of the thingy. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can fix that. So let's go ahead and take a look at this script. So all three buttons are running the same script. And I just called it Save PDF to Desktop. So first of all, I set the name that I want to use, with the path. So here's the desktop path and our invoice, and then the invoice number, and then we have to end with PDF so it knows what kind of file type it is. We navigate to the invoices print layout. Then we save records as PDF and telling it where to save that in the variable. And in here, the setting I have is to automatically open the file. That's why you see it pop open each time. And then I specify the current record. I don't want the entire found set.
Okay, so.
And then navigate.
Do not go on. Let's just stay with this one right here because there's a number of important things in here we should hammer on. So let me know when you're done with that topic, and I will hammer.
Yeah, so this is every time the script runs, it runs these first 10 lines, and then depending on the script parameter, it'll run these further ones. But go ahead, what do you want to hammer on?
All right, so let's talk about this first off. So everything in this, what we're covering in here is on the certification test, period, because Calvin helped me prep, take the certification test, prep the training. Calvin, you remember we worked on this quite a bit. And
yeah, we
this
did.
Is on the certification test, 8 ways to Sunday. And one of the questions are, so let's go back to the set variable at the top. Let's talk about that. We have desktop path. Okay, you selected desktop path. Go ahead and bring up the calculation if you want to show that. Desktop path, there are other paths that are out there. You need to know what the paths generally are. You can get a path to the, and it depends, there's a little bit of variation between FileMaker Server and FileMaker Pro and really FileMaker Go. But Go and Pro are pretty similar. Server is sandboxed for security reasons, so it can only go to a temporary path or the documents folder, which is really, when you say documents, it's the FileMaker Server's own dedicated documents folder. So desktop path is one. Temporary path is one where it's buried on the computer, no one ever sees it. Yeah, there's temporary path. And that one goes to one that's, it depends on the operating system and how you use your computer. It'll be erased every day or every week or whatever it is. And so it doesn't get too junked up in there. A lot of people write things to temporary path. I like to write things to desktop a lot of times because A, for demos, you can see it. And B, a lot of times when I kick out a document to the desktop, I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to Slack it to someone, stick it in Zoom. I'm going to email it or whatever I'm going to do. So a lot of times I just want to get it out of FileMaker onto the desktop. And so it's important to understand that there are path options there, right? Yep. Mark Johnson's about to say something tremendously important. Questions on YouTube or Twitch along the way?
There's a question on YouTube. I attended late. How does FMSP add new contacts? I do not see the add button.
Yeah, that's the part where you were late, right? So it was suggested by Steve, I think his name was Steve, that we had a bug. It's not a bug, it's a missing feature. I built the demo that you saw today. It's in my private copy. It's not quite fully fleshed out, but I demoed it. We will make that available to everyone probably in a couple days or a week or whatever it is. We have to replicate it into, remember, 9 different versions of Starting Point. It's not just something we do once. So anyway, Mark says the temporary path gets deleted each time you close FileMaker and a new one's created when you open it back up. Okay, that's cool, Mark. I just know that over time that rule regulation has changed because at one point I talked to Claris about it, and Clay Mackle, who we all know, didn't have a definitive answer because it tended to vary on the platforms a little bit. So if it always gets rid of it on the Mac on a or when you quit FileMaker, that's great. So that's that part of it. The other part of this is that we're setting all this into a variable. Okay, another test question you will see is that you cannot set it into a global, right? Because if you come down to it also has to do with the import records and export records, and this dialog right here he's about to go to, he's pressing it and going to go to this dialog right here. The acceptable items in here are these. Either they're that's text that's hard-coded, text hard-coded, text hard-coded, text hard-coded, and a variable. Nowhere in there is a global field, okay? And so that's a test question. Load it with a global field, you're all good, no bueno, okay? It will not work, and you'll also get you an F- on the test, okay? Cool. Mark says that the temporary path gets deleted on the Mac all the time currently. Cool. I'm assuming you're on Ventura, right? I'm on Ventura and Monterey on most of my stuff. A mix of the two. Cool. Good stuff. Yeah, Mark is one of the sharper tacks in the drawer. He is quite the programmer. So, so yeah, Calvin, did I cover the subtle items on this?
Yeah, I think that pretty well covered all of that.
Okay, so then
and the different nuances there for those different options.
Yeah, push forward on that, and I'll be quiet now.
Okay. So the first part of the script always runs, and then the second part of the script depends on the script parameter. So the first script parameter that we're checking for is save to container. So if we look at the setup, let's go ahead and look at the setup of this button. The buttons here, and this one's, we'll see that we have this optional script parameter, and we say save to container. So if the get script parameter, whenever you call get script parameter, it pulls up whatever you typed in that optional script parameter, and that could be a variable or text or reference a field. And in this case, that we are telling it save to container. And if it sees that that's true, it will go to an object. Now, the object name happens to be 1, so it doesn't need to be a number. That's just the number that was assigned to this container field. And then uses this insert file script step, referencing the field and then referencing the file path that we previously defined up here. So let's go ahead and try that out and see it work. And I'm going to do it with the script debugger on so we can see each step. So let me go ahead and delete this one off there. And we're going to grab this button and say save to container. So it goes through all these same processes, saves the PDF, pulled it up, and then return to the original layout. And now it's saying go to the object. The object name is just the number 1. And then it's saying insert file. So now you'll notice that we got that file right here in the, and at that point it says end if, and then that's the end of the script. So we got our file in here, and the reason why it's we have this icon instead of, you'll see on the desktop, I've got this nice kind of preview. I can kind of see what it looks like on the first page of the PDF, but in FileMaker, I'm not getting that. And the reason I'm not getting that is because I'm using insert file. And there's a bunch of different insert options. So we can say insert audio, video, insert calculated result. Some of these don't work on Pro, so you'll see it from device. This one doesn't work on Pro. Let's switch to FileMaker Macintosh, and you'll notice, I mean, does that work now?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't? It's not, or maybe the color coding
put it on
from
there.
Monkey Bread is.
What you need, show the right side over here. Calvin, show the right menu.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
So insert. So insert from device. You'll see it's grayed out. That means it's not going to work from FileMaker. And some of these other, and each of these have a little bit of nuances with them. So the one that's the best and most reliable is insert file, which is what we're using here. And so it's giving us this nice, it's inserting that into our field, but it's not giving us that nice thumbnail. So how do we get the new thumbnail? And I'm going to create a new script just for the demo.
Okay, you're going to do this call without practicing, so don't choke.
Yeah, I'm a little worried. So image data, and I think this is base64 decode, and so we need to put in base64 encode. So we encode the data.
Yeah, and then there you go. I was concerned what you were doing there. Yep.
And then here we need to get the file name. So we're going to say get container attribute, and we'll grab this field, and we'll say file name. And I think this will do it. So let's go ahead and try. I'm just going to try this by itself. See what happens. There we go.
Nice.
So we can just copy.
Nice.
We can just copy this and put it right into our if statement, and it will. Now we're going to get it looking nice going forward. So let's go ahead and delete that. Oh, that opened it. Delete. Oh, that's a bug. Okay, I'll delete this. Close this, and let's try that one more time. Save invoice to PDF, or invoice PDF to container. It saved it, and it gave us our nice thumbnail. So that is an improvement. Any questions about this setup with the
Stu says, I'm surprised that we're using a limited number of containers per module rather than tying it to a generic document management kind of system or document.
Well, yeah, we could do something like that, but
we used to have that.
Well, I think we do have it in other places in here, but in the invoices we don't. It's just easier to set up. And how often do we have so many? Chances are, if you're doing more customizing and you need more than 3 items in here, you probably need to. You're going to be making a bunch of changes anyway, and it's going to slow down the system. Especially, see this icon here that we have that we're telling you how many related documents you have. If this is a calculation that's looking at the current table. So it runs really fast. If we had this pointed to another table, it would start running really slow, especially if we put a lot of containers in there. So it does speed up the process. But if you're looking at needing to have a lot more than 3 containers, or you want them all in one table, there is a documents table in the background you can use, and you can definitely leverage a portal.
Can you show where it's
What's
at?
that?
Can you show me where it's at? I haven't looked at it lately because
This is my first time actually looking at this version of FM Starting Point. So let me just, here it is.
Right there.
First one right there, documents.
All right, create a new record, see if it works.
Yep, there it is. It puts the whole UUID in the documents.
Yeah. Shows you
Oops.
where it's connected over here. That's the possible connection.
Yeah.
And then
So we can assign to an account.
Okay.
Assign to contact, assign to project, but there's no, so you'll see in each of these areas, accounts, contacts, and projects, there should be a portal where you can see all this information. Let's go ahead to projects. Maybe there's not a portal.
That's that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a something that we don't get. We had this. Listen, so we had Matt Petrowski. For those of you wondering about this, we had Matt Petrowski, who's like crazy FileMaker developer, right? He's really good. He built this really awesome document management system that it's like watching Nick go ape with some of his UI stuff, right? And so it becomes an issue for us, Stu, of making something sufficiently complicated to cause people's heads to explode, like Scott's and Larry's and other people's like that, or my brain. And so it gets to an issue where, like that other system there, all we have to do is actually show that probably in here, have a way of showing those related documents, and you have it covered for the most part, right? So it's in there, but it's not fully in there, and it gets into this issue. It was in Starting Point at one point, and I personally made the decision to remove that from frontline service because it was too hard for people to tweak and get their heads wrapped around it. Most people, it's like the 80% rule. 80% of the people need 20% of the features. So 90% or 90% of the users of Starting Point don't need that. And so I'm pitching a feature to Stu and to the 12 other people here who might want it. You folks are definitely sharp. It's not that you don't need it. It's just a question of how many dollars do I want to spend? Because what you're not seeing over here, let's just get real about this for a second. So let's just have a moment here. So for me to build this new Starting Point, see this $10,000, that's not enough to pay for this thing, right? So I've got to pull out a second one here, and then I have to start taking these $100 bills out and paying people to build this thing, right? And so the issue becomes it's kind of like Claris. Why doesn't Claris give us all the features we ever wanted? Because they have to write checks for $1 million, incremental $1 million to engineering to build this, and I think they have a hard time deciding what's important and what's not important. That being said, they can't do everything because they don't have enough money to do everything, or time, frankly. So that's kind of the issue why I have to make some decisions some way. And it's not, Stu, that you guys aren't important. I hope you understand, right? Yes. John Ison's there. Can we give John a quick jingle? John says, at the moment, each core module has a repeating container field. The digital document is great, but we always try to balance between easier use and understand feature sense. There's not a portal in there at the moment. It could easily be added. Yeah, so we might want to, I don't know if Taylor, the problem is we're so busy right now. I talked to a FileMaker consultancy the other day. They called me and they were very unhappy because they weren't getting any work. I got a couple calls like that. And I'm like, well, we're pretty busy, but that's because we do all this stuff. So as I invest in everyone and put this money out there and I help people, then the flip side of that is I do get a certain amount of business out of that. And Scott Kane still loves me, which is important, right? Because I want to keep Scott happy. So you get the idea, right? So it's in there. It just we haven't put the portal in there, because then you'd have documents in two spots. And then you have this issue of, well, I swear the document's in there. Well, you've got it in the one, should we get rid of the other? But then you're going to get rid of the one up here, which is the simplest one to understand and use, right? So, yeah.
And it all goes back to what your needs are. Do you really need to, most of the time, those documents, you just need to see them in the context of the invoice. In some cases, people need to be able to browse.
It's crazy. Is that people are like, well, I want these to be all dynamically done. And so we had that system in there to dynamically do this. Then Nick took this and added icons to it and that kind of stuff. FileMaker can, and this would be once again if I was talking to the executive management team, but I would simply say that it should be in there. They have been investing in other things that they think will help them. However, all of us are still using this product right here. It's what we pay them to use. And so in an ideal world, we would, and this is where Kyle Williams would be such a big deal, and the Leland Longs and the people who know JavaScript, Mark Johnson. Well, Larry was there too, but Mark Johnson, I know, is just like loves the JavaScript. Imagine that you could take this menu item up here and have like objects over here and have, fields and objects and a tree, and then you could have JS objects or something like JS thingies, and you could drag a JS command and drop it up there, and it's the ones that we build. Claris doesn't build them, we build them, right? And hopefully they work on Windows and not whatnot, and you would have the benefit of some of those kind of things. That's the kind of stuff that I know Todd Geis has babbled about. We've asked for it. Of course, it's not in there. So, and I'm not, once again, to be very clear, in charge. I'm only in charge of my small pile of money, right? My job is to keep as many people happy as possible. So that's kind of the goal. And this is frankly the decision making we make. So. Since time is
I trust him.
The questions was, how do you save the email, etc., from preview mode?
Say that again.
Scott Kane wrote the question. Time is getting short. One of the key questions was, how do you save the email, invoice, etc., from preview mode? The answer is that you cannot activate a script from preview mode. You can have a script that takes you to preview mode and then ask you if you want to continue or not, right? And then it finishes executing, right? You can't.
I'm not sure why we would want to go from preview mode to emailing. Usually I'll have, if we could have like a preview button that brings up the window in preview mode, and then an optional email button after you're done previewing it that you can email. Or you can glue
them together. I mean, listen, back in the old days, that's what we would do. We'd go to preview mode, and then we would pause, and then it would go and print it, or they could cancel or something.
Yeah, ask you if you want to print this.
Scott, can you...
The problem with putting a dialogue up like that, though, is that you can't, if it's multiple pages, you can't go through the pages with the dialogue open.
You can't see the layout correctly when you have a sub-summary. Yeah, okay, so sub-summaries show up in browse mode, but variable body part width heights do not. So for those of you who would talk about list views and you have variable height on the list view, like say you had a description on a product that was really fat, right? In browse mode, that doesn't reflect that way. It's not reflective. When you put it in preview mode, it gives you a little bit more love. You could start your script. You could go to a preview of the invoice and pause. And then if you like what you saw, then you have a dialogue that says, would you like to print, yes or no, and select the button. And then it forks and it does your script.
Right. Stu says, can you install a custom menu on one layout? And the answer is yes, you can. In the layout options.
Oh, yeah, sure, the hell can. Yes.
Right here, menu set, file default, or you can pick a custom one.
Yeah.
So the menu set is defaults to the file default, but you can have it point any one layout point to any.
Yeah, custom menus kind of is a really nasty nightmare, but Nick did a 3 or 4 day event on it. Mark, if you could look that up for Stu real quick, and we could find out where that's at. It was back early in the live stream days, and he did 3 days on custom menus, and I was like, barf, I don't even want to watch that. Can you change the...
Yes, you can change it via script steps. So
yeah, you can change the script step. Yeah.
Custom, what was it called? Custom. No.
Why don't you do this real quick?
Set menu.
Yeah. Before you do that, go create temporarily a custom menu that has almost nothing in it. Right? Just go do that.
Yeah. So here, let's
File,
go. There's custom menus.
Create. Test. Yeah.
Test.
Yeah.
Say okay. It's got almost nothing in it.
Got nothing in it. Okay, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Why don't you run a pause?
Here we go.
Yeah, run a... Yeah. Go ahead. Okay, yeah.
Okay, and then we will say we want the test one.
Yeah.
So here, and I just built this for a client where they want one menu set for the regular users and a different menu set for the developers, he and myself. And so this is, we use, say, if get account privilege set name equals this, install one set, otherwise install another set. So here we go. And you'll notice everything just appeared. Now I just have FileMaker Pro, tools, and help.
That's, yeah. So you're saying, well, how do you get
And
rid
then,
of well, tools would go away if you're not in developer mode on Pro, right? Help never
right,
goes away. Help is always there. I can't see the other. What does that one
as
say?
well as
Zooms in front of me here.
this is help.
Yeah. What's the left one?
This is help, tools, and FileMaker Pro.
FileMaker Pro. So FileMaker Pro will always be there too. Okay. So you can't zero it totally out unless you do a kiosk mode. Shit. I think kiosk mode still exists. So I called Calvin. Calvin did an audible. It's like the quarterback at the line. He just called an audible today. Thank you for the help, Calvin. You're wonderful.
Not a problem.
All right, cool. That's it, Margaret. We got good. Tomorrow, Christian Olson, hacking modules, causing mayhem, right?
Yes.
Good job, Calvin Mosiman. Could not have done it without him. Calvin is a badass. I love him.
Thank you.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!